Late May 1962, Lordsburg, New Mexico. A truck garage on the north side of US Highway 70. A steel toolbox hits the gravel and bursts open. Wrenches scatter across the shoulder, and two of them skid out onto the pavement. The woman they belong to is 29 years old. Her name is Josephine Ellard, and she has just refused to sign a repair slip. 12 drivers watch her father's tools go into the dirt, and not one of them moves. A tall man at the gasoline pump across the lot sets down his coffee. Here is the story. The garage sits where the Silver City Road comes down and meets the highway. One bay, a dirt lot. One gasoline pump worked by a boy of 16. A hand-painted board over the door reads, "Owen Ellard. Truck repair," white letters going gray since before the war. On the end wall, smaller and older and half in shadow, another board still reads ELLARD SON. Owen put that one up the year Wesley started working beside him. Owen Ellard built the place in 1937 with money he did not have. He is 11 months dead. Wesley Ellard, his son, is 11 years dead in the frozen hills above the Chosin Reservoir. He turned wrenches in that bay from the time he was big enough to hold one, and he never came home to it. Nobody has painted over the end wall. That leaves Josephine. She is 29. She wears her father's coveralls with the cuffs turned up twice. Her hands are black to the wrist, and they stay that way. She learned the trade on an apple crate at 11, handing Owen Ellard sockets in the order he wanted them. And by 15, she could guide a transmission out on the shop jack and lay every part on the bench in the order he would reach for it. The drivers on that highway know exactly what she is. They bring her their trucks. That is not the argument today. The argument today is a piece of paper. The freight line out of El Paso runs ore down the Silver City Road, 44 miles. The last 14 miles run downhill, 4 of them at a 6% grade, which means a loaded truck comes off that hill carrying 41,000 pounds that would very much like to keep going. After the wreck, the line's insurance carrier put a rule in writing. Every truck assigned to that run carries a brake inspection signed by a shop, renewed every 90 days. Not the law, just the price of being covered on that hill. This is renewal morning. 12 trucks are lined along her fence waiting on slips, because Ellard's is the carrier's approved shop at the bottom of the hill. The next approved shop is 60 miles east in Deming. The one at the head of the line is a 1954 tandem. She pulled the left front drum on it yesterday afternoon and told a dispatcher back in El Paso exactly what was inside it. He wrote none of it down. Then she put it back together, because a truck cannot sit overnight in a shop with one bay. So this morning the wheel is on, and the hub is wiped clean, and it looks like every other truck on that road. She is the only person alive who has looked under it. The company man arrives at 9 and wants the slip signed by 9:15. He is about 45. Pressed white shirt in the heat, a tie, a clipboard. He is not from Lordsburg, and he does not intend to be. Those 12 trucks have to be on that hill today, on a schedule made back in El Paso by somebody who has never seen it. Sign it. No. Miss Ellard, the inner seal on that left front hub is gone. Not weeping. Gone. There's bearing grease cooked down through the shoes behind it, and it's been going in there for months. She wipes her hands. Linings are down to the rivets. It's not a repair, it's a rebuild. Give me 2 days on that wheel end, and I'll open the other side while I'm under it. You've got 15 minutes. Then the answer's no. He looks at her the way men in pressed shirts have been looking at her since her father's funeral. Then he does the thing he came prepared to do. He is not trying to hurt her. He is trying to make this shop feel like more trouble than it is worth, in front of 12 men, so that the next time he comes down that road she signs and saves them both the morning. He picks up her toolbox off the bench beside the bay door, carries it out into the sunlight, and throws it into the road. The lid comes open in the air. The tools go everywhere. Combination wrenches her father bought one at a time out of a catalog because he could not afford a set. A ball-peen hammer with a handle he wrapped in friction tape in 1949. A brass drift. A torque wrench in a wooden case that cost him a week's work in 1952. that she has never let anybody else touch. They land on the gravel shoulder of US Highway 70. Two of them skid out onto the pavement, and a westbound car slows and swings wide around them. Nobody laughs. That is the part worth noticing. 12 drivers are standing there, and not one of them thinks it is funny. They look at the ground. They look at their boots. A man near the fence takes his hat off and holds it, the way you do at a graveside, and puts it back on. They know what those tools are. They know whose they were, and they do nothing. 12 trucks are on the schedule, and every driver in that lot is paid by the load, and a truck that does not move is a paycheck that does not come. Before we go on, what state are you watching from? Put it down in the comments. This one happened on a 2-lane highway, and I want to see how many states it has crossed since. Josephine Ellard does not shout. She picks the 2 wrenches off the pavement first, before anybody gets hurt on them, then kneels in the gravel of the shoulder and starts gathering the rest. One at a time. She does not look at the drivers while she does it, and that is worse for them than if she had. Because she has been here before. 10 months ago, with her father 3 weeks in the ground and the line's contract the only thing keeping the lights on, another company man in another pressed shirt told her to sign a slip on a truck she did not believe in. She was 28, with a mortgage on a building that had her father's name over the door and her brother's fading on the end wall. She signed it. Marvin Sowell drove it. He came down the last 4 miles of that grade with nothing under his boot but floor, and he put it into the cut bank on the second switchback because the only other choice was the drop. The truck rolled. The ore came through the back of the cab. He lived. He is 34, and he uses a cane, and he will use one for the rest of his life. He works the yard now, moving other men's trucks 20 feet at a time because the line would not put him back in a seat. He is the 13th man on that lot this morning, and the only one without a truck. He is standing 40 feet away right now, leaning on that cane, watching her pick up wrenches. The company man carried that toolbox out past him and did not look at him. He knows exactly who that man is. Sowell's name is in a folder in El Paso, with a settlement figure typed beside it. Josephine Ellard has not signed a slip she did not believe in since that day. Not one. It has cost her 3 contracts and most of a year. And everybody standing in that lot knows it. Have you ever had to hold a line that cost you everything, while the people who benefited from it stood there and said nothing? 12 men in that lot knew she was right. Not one of them opened his mouth. If you have ever been the only one holding it, tell me. The tall man at the gasoline pump has been there the whole while. He came in off the highway 20 minutes ago in a dusty station wagon, heading west toward Tucson. He had turned 55 only days earlier. 6'4", faded blue work shirt, open tan canvas jacket, wide-brimmed tan hat. 23 years ago he made a picture about a stagecoach that spends its whole running time trying to reach this town. Now he is passing through it with a cup of coffee going cold in his hand. He sets the coffee cup down on the pump island. He does not hurry. That is the first thing the drivers notice. A man who intends to fight walks fast. This one walks like a man crossing his own yard. He stops beside the front of the ore truck, and he looks at it, and then he looks at the wrenches in the road, and then he looks at the company man. You say those brakes are safe. They're within tolerance. That's not what I asked you. The company man opens his mouth and finds that the sentence he had ready does not fit anymore. Wayne turns to Josephine Ellard, still down on one knee in the gravel, with a brass drift in her hand. Ma'am, you got a jack? She looks up at him. I've got a jack. Get it. She gets it. What happens next takes the best part of half an hour, and there is almost no talking in it. He takes her lug wrench off the nail by the bay door, and he breaks the nuts loose first, with the tire still on the ground and the weight of the truck holding it, the way a man does it who has done it before. Josephine chocks both rear wheels. Then he sets the jack under the left end of the front axle and runs it up, and she cribs a stack of timber under that axle before he puts a hand anywhere near the hub. He waits while she does it. He does not say one word about it, and every driver in that lot notices that he waited. His jacket comes off and goes over the fender. 55 years old, sleeves rolled past the elbows, in the sun, on a dirt lot in New Mexico. The company man says something about liability. "Hold this." He hands him the lug wrench. The company man sets his clipboard down on the desk inside the bay door to take it, and then he stands there holding it, because when that voice says "hold this," you find yourself holding it. Wayne spins the nuts off the studs by hand. Josephine slides a low-wheel dolly in under the tire, and he pulls the wheel straight off the studs and guides the whole weight of it down onto the dolly himself. The wheel comes off. He does not take it back into the bay where it belongs. He rolls the dolly out to the open middle of the lot, where every man standing there can see it, then tips the wheel off the dolly and settles it flat onto 2 timber blocks. Then he comes back and she rolls the dolly in under the hub. She sets a shallow steel parts tray down beside him. He pulls the hubcap, backs the brake adjuster off, and lays the spindle hardware and the outer bearing in that tray in the order they came off. Nobody had to tell him to. She notices that too. He works the hub and the drum off the spindle together and lets them down onto the dolly. And now the front end of that truck is standing there stripped, in the sun, in front of 12 drivers, with nothing on it but a backing plate and 2 brake shoes. 1 second. 2. 3. The shoes are black, not dirty. Black, soaked through and glazed over with bearing grease that cooked out of a seal that is not cracked but gone, and ran down that backing plate in a stain 1.5 feet long that did not happen this week or last month. The rivet heads stand proud of what is left of the lining, and they have cut grooves around the inside of that drum deep enough to catch a thumbnail in. Wayne takes the spring tool off her bench and lifts the forward shoe off the anchor and holds it up. 12 drivers look at it. Every one of them knows what that means, because every one of them has come down that hill. Wayne carries the shoe across the lot and sets it down flat on that clipboard, on top of the schedule, on top of the slip, with the empty line at the bottom. It leaves a black smear on the paper when he takes his hand away. "Sign that." The company man does not move. "I'll have it looked at in Deming." "I expect you will." And then Wayne does the thing that ends it. He walks back to his station wagon, starts it, and backs it across the mouth of the yard gate, nose in, square, filling it. He shuts the engine off, puts the keys in his shirt pocket, and sits down on the front fender. A station wagon does not stop a truck. Any one of those 12 could have put it in the ditch without downshifting, and every man in that lot knew it. He is not blocking the gate, he is blocking the idea. Then he looks past the company man entirely, at the 12 men standing in the lot, and he asks them the only question that matters. "Which one of you is taking it out?" Nobody says anything. 10 seconds. 15. A truck goes by out on the highway, and the sound of it comes and goes, and the lot is quiet again. Marvin Sowell comes across the gravel on his cane. It takes him a while, and nobody helps him, and nobody would dare. He gets to the desk inside the bay door and takes out the keys to the yard truck, the only set the line still lets him carry, and sets them down on the wood, beside a black brake shoe. He does not make a speech either, he just puts them down. The second man does it 8 seconds later. Then it is all of them, keys on the desk, one set at a time, until there is a pile of them on a scarred board in a one-bay garage in Lordsburg, New Mexico, and 12 trucks nobody in the world is going to drive today. The company man stands in the middle of it holding a lug wrench. He goes to the telephone on the wall inside that bay, and he calls El Paso. We do not get both halves of that conversation. We do not need it. The order comes back down the line. Get the fleet moving. Have the first truck towed to Deming. He hangs up. He looks through the bay door at 12 sets of keys lying on a dead man's desk. An order cannot drive a truck. He puts the lug wrench on the ground. He does not go back inside for the clipboard. He gets in his car, and Wayne comes off that fender and backs the wagon out of the gate for him, and stands there in the dirt while he drives through, and then puts it back exactly where it was. Now here is the part I want you to sit with. John Wayne could have paid for the rebuild. He had the money in his pocket that morning, and every man in that lot would have taken it and told the story for 40 years. He could have driven west and had lunch in Bowie, feeling fine about himself. Instead, he did the smaller, harder thing. He made 12 men look at the truth in the sunlight, then stepped out of the way and let them decide. He did not save her. He made room for her to be right out loud. The drivers drift off in 2s and 3s. The lot empties. The truck stands on cribbing with its wheel resting flat on 2 blocks 20 feet away. And inside the bay door, the shoe is still on that clipboard, and John Wayne, 55 years old, walks out to the gravel shoulder of US Highway 70 and gets down on one knee. He picks up a combination wrench, and he wipes the dust off it against his trouser leg, and he puts it in the box. Then he picks up the next one. Josephine Ellard comes out and kneels across from him, and for about 2 minutes, neither of them says a word. 2 people on their knees beside a highway in New Mexico, putting a dead man's tools back in a dead man's box, while the traffic goes by in the lane beyond them. She finds the torque wrench under the running board. The wooden case is cracked across the lid. The wrench inside is fine. He saved a week for this. Wayne looks at it. Then it's worth keeping. That is the entire conversation. He carries the box in and sets it on the bench. He puts his jacket back on. He pays the boy for the gasoline, leaves $1 on the pump island for the coffee, gets in the wagon, and pulls out westbound. That is the last anyone at Ellard's ever sees of him. He never gives the company man his name. The company man never asks. He is the only man on that lot who does not already know it. No photograph, no reporter. 1 lug wrench in the dirt, a wheel resting on 2 blocks, and 12 trucks that did not run. That afternoon, Josephine Ellard takes the failed brake shoe, and she drives a 16-penny nail into the board above her workbench, and she hangs it there. It leaves a dark grease shadow on the board underneath it, and that shadow never comes out of the wood. Then she does the other thing, the one nobody asks her for. She fills out her own inspection record on that truck, refused, the cause in her own hand, 3 lines of it, makes a carbon, and mails it to the line's insurance carrier in Phoenix before the post office closes at 5. Nobody told her to. Nobody would ever have known if she hadn't. 9 days later, a man from the carrier drives down and spends 2 hours in that lot with a flashlight. He does not write anybody an apology. He writes a condition: no coverage on a loaded run down the Silver City Road until all 19 trucks pass a fresh inspection, wheel by wheel, every drum off, no matter what date is on the 90-day slip in the cab. The line can send them east to Deming empty, 60 miles, one at a time, or it can rotate them through the shop at the bottom of the hill. They choose the shop at the bottom of the hill. There was never anything noble in that decision. It was arithmetic. Josephine Ellard does not gloat about it. She has 19 trucks. 6 of them need full wheel ends rebuilt. 1 needs almost nothing, and she writes that down too. Marvin Sowell runs the parts. She signs every slip herself, on her own line. It takes her until October. And from that spring, the drivers stop calling it Ellard's and start calling it Joe's. Marvin Sowell got back in a seat in 1964. Not the line's, hers. She bought a flatbed and put him in it, and he hauled for her until he retired. He never once brought up the slip she signed in 1961. She ran that shop for 29 more years. Count that one. She was 29 the morning that wheel came off. She gave that building exactly as many years again as she had already been alive. Somewhere past 6,000 trucks through one bay, every slip signed by hand, and not one of them for a truck she did not believe in. She closed it in 1991. She was 58, and her hands were finished. The brake shoe was still on the nail. 29 years of it, hanging over that bench, with the grease shadow burned into the board behind it. She took it down herself, and she did not donate it. She did not put it in a case, and she never once let anybody photograph it. She carried it across the bay and opened her father's steel toolbox. The same box, the same lid, dents still in it from the morning it hit the gravel of US Highway 70. And she laid that brake shoe down inside, on top of the carbon copy of the refusal she had mailed before 5 o'clock on a day in May of 1962. Then she closed the lid. People asked her about that morning over the years, Because in a town that size, somebody always tells somebody. Every single time, she said the same short thing. He didn't do it for the credit. I'm not going to hand it to him now. She sold the property that same year, and she made the buyer one condition before she signed. Not the board over the door. That one had her own father's name on it, and she let it go. The small one. The old one on the end wall, half in shadow, that nobody driving past had looked at in 40 years. Ellard Son. She could sell the garage. She could close the toolbox. She was never going to be the one who took her brother's name off that wall. The buyer agreed to it. Here is what I take from it. The company man had authority. A schedule, a clipboard, a title, an office behind him. He had everything except the willingness to look at what was under the wheel. A man's real weight is not what he can order. It is what he will get down in the road and do himself, in front of everybody, when there is nothing in it for him. John Wayne pulled that wheel with his own hands and never signed his name to any of it. If this story reached you, do me a favor. Pass it on. Share it with somebody who was handed a paper they knew was wrong and would not put their name on it. Hit that subscribe button if you're new here. There are more Duke stories coming. And unfortunately, they don't make men like John Wayne anymore.